Lesson 91, the present tense. In English, we have different ways to express the present tense. We could say, I read the newspaper, or I am reading the newspaper. And each of those two statements has a different shade of meaning to it. If you say, I am reading the newspaper, that's what we call the present progressive. It carries with it the idea that I am reading the newspaper right at this very moment. But on the other hand, if I say, I read the newspaper, that has a different shade of meaning. A statement like that could mean that I read the newspaper periodically, that I read it every week, that I read it whenever I get the chance. It has a feeling of being current, and therefore it is a present tense verb, but it's somewhat nonspecific. It doesn't really say when the activity occurs. So we have simple present and present progressive in English, but here's the thing we want you to understand in this lesson. In Russian, there's only one way to say something in the present tense. In Russian, if you say, I am reading the newspaper, there's only one way to say that. And so if you're an English speaker learning Russian, this presents a couple of difficulties. First of all, if someone says that in Russian, how do you know what they mean? Do they mean that they are reading the paper right now, or that they read it occasionally? And so the answer, and you probably are expecting this by now, we've said it so many times, the answer is that you have to look at the context in which that statement is made. If someone is talking to you and they're holding a newspaper and the paper is open, chances are it means they're reading it right now. If they do not have a newspaper, but you see a few newspapers lying around the house, probably it means that they read the newspaper occasionally or often or when they get the chance, something like that. So you must look at the context of the sentence. If you're reading it, you have to look at the context of what the written sentence is saying. If you're in a conversation, you have to think about the context in which it's being said. In this textbook, our exercises are very simple, and they really don't have much context to them. They're just practice exercises to help you get a good start with the Russian language. So as you translate the exercises, just do the best you can to try to make an English translation that sounds good, that sounds like colloquial English. And as we say here in the book, you can try different translations to see which one sounds best. We have tried to make the answer key as flexible as possible to include as many different possible meanings for what each Russian exercise could mean. Of course, it's impossible to capture every possible meaning. So in the answer key, we will put the answer that sounds the most natural and sounds best. But again, these exercises are just for practice, and there's no way to have all the context that you would have in a real conversation or if you were reading some kind of book or newspaper.